God called us into the world to be distinct, not distant. You have also heard it said that you must be in the world, but not of it. Does that sound familiar? They're both basically the same statement. God called us into this world not to be superficial, not to be sterile, not to be defiled. The mission we have here, beloved, this morning is to learn what is the true religion. In a small Florida town, school was beginning to resume. Summer was over. I see a few sad faces maybe in this room. And with that, we see this vibrancy and this nervous energy at the same time in an elementary school. And there we see these two girls that are placed at the same table. They had all their things in order. And it was a little touch and go at first. Making new friends is always a difficult thing, right? These two girls didn't know each other. One of the girls is Korean. Her name is Cho-hee, and it means beauty. Cho-hee was sitting beside another girl whose name was Lucy. And Lucy and Cho-hee were trying to figure each other out. And over the course of time, and with a craft that came into being, they began to do something hands-on together, and they began to really hit it off. Cho-hee was there as she was beside Lucy, and Lucy just openly said, "I have to say, you have the most beautiful skin I've ever seen." And Cho-hee just beamed with delight. And a short while after, Cho-hee turned to Lucy and said, "You have the most beautiful smile." And Lucy beamed and she says, "Well, my name, Lucy, means light." And from that point on, both beauty and light were inseparable. Lucy came home. She was very excited. She came up to her mom. Mom, you won't believe it. Cho-hee's invited me over for a sleepover." So Lucy's mom heard all this, understood what was happening. She called Cho-hee's mother, and the two mothers agreed that this would be just fine. But Lucy's mom pulled her to the side and said, "Lucy, I've got to talk with you. I want to make sure that you understand something. You do realize you are representing our family. And when you go to Cho-hee's house, you must be on your best behavior. You need to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, and yes, sir, and no, sir. And when they serve you food, you have to choose something good to eat, all right? Don't turn down what they offer you. Be on your best behavior. Don't lie. And if it's something that doesn't agree with you, just simply say, no, thank you." Lucy hugged her mom like a dolphin. She went quickly to get her overnight bag. She was so excited about a stayover. And off she went to Cho-hee's. They had a long play day, and they were extremely tired, as girls can be when they play together. And then it came dinner time. And Lucy smelled something coming out of the kitchen that was very unique, that she had not smelled before. Korean food. And there she was at the table, and the food was being explained to their guests. And as Lucy looks at her friend Cho-hee, who's gobbling up everything in front of her, she looked at it with a little bit of disdain. And Cho-hee's mother said, "Dear, is everything okay? I noticed that you're not eating." And that's the moment when Lucy went against the advice of her mother, and she fibbed. And she says, "Yes, ma'am, but my doctor says I can't mix my food. It's bad for my digestion." "I'm sorry to hear that," she said to her. And there was an offering of bread, to which she took 4 amounts and was satisfied with that. So they went off to their room and they played some more. And then the mother announced that dessert was going to be served. And so she came back out, and there in a bowl was 2 scoops of vanilla ice cream. She was so excited. So excited that she reached for the condiments. She found the chocolate syrup and she poured it on top. She got the sprinkles and the nuts and the cherry and she put it on top and she started to gobble it all up. And then Cho-hee's mother just simply looked at her and said, "That's amazing. You don't seem to have any problem with mixing your dessert." Today, we hear a passage from the gospel where the Pharisees had a problem with mixing with those that they felt were defiled. They smelled something. They knew something wasn't right coming out of this place of worship, and Jesus, doggone it, bringing in these radical ideas and these 12 disciples. Can you believe they came in and they were going to have this time of worship together, and they didn't wash their hands? Oh, filthy. They are defiling God's house. That was the charge. We hear that in today's gospel. These men, supposedly to be religious, are defiling the basic precepts. You see, the Pharisees, they were entrenched in doctrine and in God's word and the ritual of the day. And there they knew that what was passed down with Moses and Aaron and the whole order of Levite, they knew that here was something that was awfully wrong. You can't extend to God's people unless you take the right course, the right steps, and do the right things, and everything's got to be in its right place. I know, I went to a school that put a lot of emphasis on everything being done the right way. I'm not trying to make an argument to take away from that. There's beauty in liturgy. There is beauty in the sacredness of what we do when we assemble and we come into church, and we know what to expect. But what if I took the gospel and read it at the beginning? What if we didn't do a confession? What if we didn't even do the Eucharist? Would you feel like something was wrong? Would you feel like something was out of place? What is Father John doing here? He's messing with trouble. This is our distinct nature of how we worship. We're sacramental Christians. We believe intently that God has put this into our lives for good measure and in the right accord. The beauty stands alone. And I would even say a lot of times when people think, oh, the church, but the liturgy is everlasting. It's ancient. It's true. But where is the light? You have to mix the beauty and the light together. The vestments, the candles, the water, all of these are outward and visible signs of something that has to be on the inside. And this is what Jesus is referring to when he says, don't be just hearers, but be doers. Again, what is our distinct nature? It's about mixing the beauty and the light. There is a heresy called ritualism. Did you know that? That people worship the beauty of holiness, which is good, but some will worship the holiness of beauty. They will fall into this trance about how church is supposed to be, how worship is supposed to be. And that's their only focus. But there's a disconnect. We're not mixing the way that God wants us to. I go back to that day where those disciples were there in the midst of the Pharisees, ritualists, who knew of the beauty of the tabernacle and of worship, but they didn't consider what was happening inside of themselves. The priest in this church will not only put on the vestments to resemble and to act out the understanding of what it means for purity culture, but will also have their hands washed. And they'll say that psalm, I wash my hands in innocence, and I go before thy altar, singing a song of thanksgiving and telling of your wonderful deeds. That song's got to be there. That light's got to shine. If I fall on my duties to carry out and mix those ingredients and mix those two things together, then it's like me giving you an entree without a dessert or a dessert without an entree. You have to have the two to satisfy the diet of a true religion. Going back to the washing of the hands In the lavabo, which is a Latin term for the bowl, it means I will wash. The emphasis is on purity. I don't know about you, but when I got to the last part of that reading of the gospel, it made me go, oh my goodness, how many of those things defile me? Because we are in a world that is full of those sinful things. Fornication, adultery, murder, licentiousness, which is a big word for just risky behavior, right? We've got all of those things, and yet when I hear those, I'm asking, what has God invited me to his table to partake? It's to wash me clean and through so that his light will shine on what is being offered into the world, so that when I go into the world, I will show the distinct characteristics of Christ. It's easy as Christians, I will say this, it's easy, it's a temptation that we set ourselves aside to be distant from the culture. The culture is going to, you know that place. Okay, hell, all right? It's in the Bible, I can say it. You can go there if you subscribe to these types of manifestations of the Spirit that only wants to do the right things. But if you don't answer the why are you doing the right things, then you miss the course of a true religion. You don't understand. You fall short. The Pharisees, God-loving people as they were, are so easy to throw in the bus. I've heard sermon after sermon talking about the evil ways of the Pharisees. These are people that dedicated their lives to God, to serve him. They got a certain place. They built the big temples. They had the gold and the opulence, but they began to go in a path that didn't consider the plight of the human condition. They didn't go out into the pews. They didn't go and meet the people where they were and to say, why are you sick? Why are you lonely? Why are you hurting? Why is your sin taking over you? They basically expected that if people came into the house, that the purity would just happen. Our role is to live in a world that is messy, with smells and sounds and sights and things that come out of it that we just don't want to be a part of it. But there is a way that you can be in the world and not of the world. And that's what Jesus is teaching us. He's saying, come to me so that I may wash you clean. We just don't want to fall into the worship of a ritual. The traditions are sure. The ritual's good. It's beautiful. But we need that light to join with it. Where is that in your life? Do you express both the beauty and the light? Do you go to that place where Christ has taught you? In a place where you say, Lord, don't send me there. That place is wicked. That place is messy. That place is a corrupt place. I don't agree with those people. I don't agree with their thinking. Christ will give you the words to say. He will help you to sing a song of thanksgiving and telling of his wonderful deeds. He will give you that purity. But you've got to get to that place where you want to receive it. Avoid the ritualism. Embrace the sanctification, that thing called holiness, which comes from expressing God's light. And if you do it by asking for Jesus to lead you and to be in you every step of the way, your steps will be true. You will be in adherence to that true religion, that true faith that will allow for your light to shine in a world to which you are called to be in it, but not of it. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.